men at age 40 now have the same type of testosterone as 70-year-olds.
This whole conversation is a touchy subject.
They treat their business, they treat their cars, they treat their clothes better than they treat themselves.
Most Western medicine is go to your doctor, get on prescriptions, you're a victim, you can't do anything about any of this stuff.
We are in a testosterone epidemic.
Guys, we got Brad Clifford, founder of Elevetion. They're a leading innovator in the anti-aging, longevity, and just overall health optimization space. Brad, why don't you introduce yourself to the listeners and tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe your story and how you got into the position you're in.
Awesome. Well, I'm stoked to be here, Daniel. Thanks for having me on the podcast. My name is Brad Clifford, founder of Elevetion Health. My background, I was a former athlete in a past life, now current athlete in a new life. But as a past athlete, I had a lot of injuries, and those injuries stacked up, both physical, and I had some mental injuries that were going on through some concussions and things like that kind of changed my life. But over time, with an adaptation to kind of my physiology, I had to figure out why problems were existing in my 20s. And then that led to a medical career where I advised hundreds of and thousands of physicians in supportive care in the acute care model. Everything from orthopedics, regenerative orthopedics, cancer-based treatments, genomic-based cancer. And during that time, my physiological problems and some of the mental health issues that I had just kept getting worse. And so those like fallback issue or strategies that I had as a performance athlete didn't really help. And, the macros and the working out harder and harder, that kind of led to a lot of dead ends, honestly. So at the time, I started evolving a lot of the knowledge and some of the technical specific work that I was doing into my own life. I started rehabilitating a lot of past injuries, but then got exposed to the anti-aging space about 12 years ago. And when I started applying those aspects into my life, it led to a whole new world of preventative care and fixing a lot of physiological and biological problems that I had. What started as kind of like a passion project that helped myself and many people around me. I was basically coaching people on how to improve their physiology through a lot of the technical tools that I had, specifically coming from genomics. I started to realize real quickly that this didn't exist in the capacity in the consumer space. And so after a lot of time in kind of the insurance-based healthcare model, I was fed up with it. I started Elevetion Health almost 4 years ago now. And with a core care clinical team, we've evolved and expanded year after year, helping hundreds and thousands of new patients, doing some of the things that I was just doing myself that there were just no answers to in the beginning.
Love that. So, I mean, a lot of us can relate as athletes. I think most people, at least here in America, did some sports at some time or another, especially a lot of guys did. I know myself, ex-athlete. What were those injuries that you were experiencing? And like, how'd you, before you found all this stuff, how did you go about dealing with them?
Yeah, so when you have injuries, a lot of the times, you think, oh, it's structural. Many times it is. Like if you tear off a tendon completely, there's no magic pill that is going to reattach that tendon to the bone again. That just does not exist. That's a structural mechanical issue that needs complete change back to, foundational level. But a lot of the things after I fixed those problems were leading to other problems. And so dealing with chronic pain specifically after multiple surgeries made my life really hard to function and do the things that I love to do, like work out. Some of that was directly from, the injury itself, but most of it came from not being able to do the things as well that I used to, which was, building up over months and years, like metabolic dysfunction and things like that. Over time. And one of the things that I had specifically is I had multiple concussions when I was playing college football. So because of that, my particular type of experience was I was dealing with some major depression issues and some anxiety issues that I had, leveraged psychiatric support with SSRIs and helping with anti-anxiety. It masked a lot of the issues that I had, but it made other issues and created new problems in other ways. And so I went through probably a 8-year period where I was cycling off and getting back on and getting really frustrated. And so panic attacks started to add up, things like that. And ultimately, with a lot of my concussions, what ended up happening, you have forms of hypogonadism when it comes to male fertility, or excuse me, male functionality with testosterone. And so my communication issues were my brain was not communicating with my testicles in the way that typically they should and function. And so all the tools to kind of re-stimulate natural pathways in my testicles just were not working. And it had to do with a lot of the TBI that I had. So the traumatic brain injury, compounding with the 16 years of hitting my head against another human being over and over again, was not helping me here in my early 30s. And so when I got on testosterone replacement therapy, it was like a switch went back on and it helped out quite a bit. But that was the first kind of step back into a physiological change, through a tool and a problem that I had that could lead to multiple other things. So that spider webbed out to what are all my other deficiencies. And from the moment I was born, let alone the things that I had done to myself over at that time, 32 years of life.
Yeah, so a lot to unpack there. I want to kind of go back a little bit because I feel like there's tons of athletes, girls and guys, that have had brain injuries, concussions. Myself, I think I've had like 3 or 4 concussions, multiple where I've lost memory, one where I like literally lost vision short term. And I've probably experienced a lot of the same stuff that you've experienced. So you're saying that a lot of these injuries that athletes get, these head injuries, can cause concussions, which then can kind of spiderweb into other conditions as well. Like what specifically are some of the more common ones that happen?
Yeah, for men specifically, if you have concussions, it does not mean matter of factly that your communication pathways are off. But what's really important to remember is that there are multiple systems in our body that are communicating, with our brain directly and signaling things to do. So when it comes to men and you're dealing with, proper testicular communication for testosterone production, that's the way that men produce testosterone in our body. That pulsing comes, from our brain. And certain parts of our brain, like our pituitary, can communicate signaling for multiple different avenues in our system to function properly. And if you have multiple concussions, it can lead to long-term issues where that communication pathway is disrupted, and sometimes, indefinitely. And this is not a common kind of treatment algorithm. Typically, you have primary and secondary hypogonadism that's going on with, endocrinology. But a lot of the times you get, veterans or athletes like we're talking about that have these concussions that add up, and no other type of treatment is supporting them with some of their mental health issues. But that's the big one I see with some men who have a history of traumatic brain injury, that at some point nothing's really worked, psychiatric meds, things like that. But they restore a proper function in their testosterone function, which is the primary hormone driver for us as men. It's almost like my experience. It's like this light switch goes back on, and the physiological, like, low moods that you have been dealing with for years, you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even remember what it felt like to just feel good again. Turns back on. For women, though, there can be hormonal disruptions as well, thyroid disruptions that can, be a part of this. But brain health is just important as any other type of organ system in our body, and it's very much overlooked many of the times.
Yeah, one could argue it's like the most important, one of the most important systems in our body. So, brain trauma, like concussions, is there correlation to these mental health issues, anxiety, depression, stress, panic attacks, stuff like that?
In my opinion, yes. I think it's one of the most opportunistic areas of study for psychiatric medicine and psychology. I think, especially for men, it's not in an outrageous kind of statistic to say that most suicides are from men. There's a mental health epidemic globally, in America, in the UK, but there are men under the age of 40, and a lot of the times the number one killer in the UK, it's male suicide is the number one killer for men under 40. In the U.S., there's arguably, if you look at the actual numbers and statistics, it's male suicide is the number one killer. But it's, a lot of the times it's jumbled data because you have accidents that are in there with, in kind of the criteria. But that's a whole different discussion. So if you look at that, it's an epidemic that's going on. And when you know that men as they age are losing their testosterone levels rapidly, faster than any time in human history, men at age 40 now have the same type of testosterone as 70-year-olds did years and years and years ago. So we are in a testosterone epidemic in the world right now. And there's multiple factors for that, environmentally, epigenetically, and things like that. But and environmentally, but there are a lot of men that suffer with this who have had a history of traumatic brain injury and don't get on something that can help correlate to a better life improvement. And it's the number one opportunity, I think, in psychiatric medicine and psychology today for men is testosterone replacement therapy in this particular category.
Why do you think men in their 30s, or why do you think 30-year-old men have testosterone levels that of what 70-year-old men should have?
Yeah, a lot of the reason is environmental. So we live in the most toxic environment that we've ever lived in human history. I think that there are, the things that we put on our skin, the things that we put in our body through food, the way that we're raised with extremely processed foods from the moment we're born is a contributor to that for sure. There's endocrine disruptors all around us. I think that there are many people trying to look into some of the fertility and kind of contraceptive medicines for women and those effects on downstream effects and how they affect the next generation if there have been contraceptives used over time, but that's a very touchy kind of subject. But there are multiple different reasons. The real reason is that we're seeing it, and the fact that we're seeing it, we know that there's a problem. The good answer is that with knowing there's a problem and knowing there's a solution that's a safe solution, there's more people than ever that should be feeling better but aren't because there's some stigma attached or some accessibility inability to get these things where it's really accessible at this point.
Well, let's be clear, Brad. This whole conversation is a touchy subject because it goes against the narrative of what most Western medicine is, which is, insurance based. Go to your doctor, get on prescriptions. You're a victim. You can't do anything about any of this stuff. So I think everything you guys are doing goes against the narrative and everything my podcast and my guests are about generally do go against those narratives. So with the injuries, now like where are you at? So you had these injuries, you've now kind of healed yourself. I mean the before and after pictures are quite remarkable from where you were. I think that was one of the biggest things that stood out in your story was just seeing like where you were at, which looks like I think a lot of athletes, kind of I used to be an athlete, I used to be in shape, and then I stopped caring or can't get the results that I used to get anymore. I've got kind of that dad bod going on. and now you're jacked, shredded, you look 10 years younger than you actually are. What was the like aha moment for you in that journey?
Yeah, that a lot of the times in clinical medicine, you look at just baseline like blood work, clinical markers. And for me, I always thought, and from a lot of my conversations and some of the colleagues that I, advise, that it gave, all of the answers for a lot like a lot of the problems we're looking at. The truth is it's only a snapshot in time. And so it's only giving you part of the picture. Um, and for me, I had to really understand, like, okay, if this is snapshot right now, what's behind this? What are the lagging and compounded indicators of how my physiology actually operates, even from the moment I was born? Like, what are those things that are make me unique and make me problematic too? And for me, I've posted this a lot on social media. I am set up for failure. I'm in the 1%, the 1 to 2% of the not populations you should be a part of to be metabolically completely a mess. Just from the moment I was born, I've got a lot of predisposition. So if I don't play my cards right, I got the cards basically stacked against me, one could say, genetically in metabolic function. And so when I could uncover what those specifics were, and then I realized completely through a baseline measurement over time, I could see where all these problems were not only in my physiology, but how they were showing up, day after day, month after month, year after year, and the things that I had stacked for years that just were negatively working against me. And so I took it upon myself to reverse engineer all these things so that I knew all the things that I needed to do daily, monthly, and then now I'm, years past that. But within 3 years, I looked like a completely different individual. And one could say, oh, it's steroids, it's, testosterone's a steroid and all those things. It's just that. The truth is I had so much that I had found that I needed to unravel that were spider webbing all over the place. Was testosterone replacement therapy a supportive structure of a major issue that I had? Yes, absolutely. But anyone that's just doing that do not have the type of results that you see statistically and data driven that I have done, unless you actually know how to reverse engineer that.
Yeah, so a couple different things have essentially transpired from in your journey. Testosterone replacement therapy being one of those, understanding the data, really analyzing it. But you did say that you had like kind of like an 8-year journey on and off with SSRIs, which I think a lot of people get on. What's your experience? Did those SSRIs help? Did they amplify certain symptoms that you were experiencing? And where are you at today with those?
Yeah, so the health, if we back up all the way, health is a combination of two things. This is irrefutable. You have what's your physiological experience in the body that we're all experiencing, and then you have a psychological experience that we're all experiencing. The way that we interpret life and how that perception is played out with us personally. And so when it comes to like depression or anxiety, there's a psychological element, like how I look at a certain event or how I interpret that to then feel about that in my life. That's totally part of mental health for sure. But there's a physiological event that if there's complete disruption or non-function, if you will, that dysfunction causes dis-ease. Everybody talks about this, but like not having ease or balance creates a dis-ease. And so when your physiology is completely working against you, it's amplifying the things that you're interpreting in your life. So for me specifically, I had a lot of anxiety, but my physiology was messed up. And so those interpretations became amplified to the point there are three specific events, and finally the third one was the make it or break it kind of moment, where I would wake up at like 3 a.m. and I would start feeling like I was having a heart attack, but I was having panic attacks. And my wife would have to like sit with me for, a couple hours just to get through it. And what I realized is that I felt like my body was just failing me. And it was really that there was just physiological disruption. And once I could rectify that, rectifying kind of the way that you interpret life becomes so much easier to deal with because your body's not working against you. All these chemicals, if you break it down just to a logical sense, dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine, all these kind of brain chemicals are all a byproduct of a chemical process in our bodies and our physiology. And so if you are in dis-ease or a dysfunctional state in the way that your body's showing up, those brain chemicals are working against you. And so I was masking them with SSRIs, but until I got to the root issues and understood what was my physiology being amplified for anxiety and depression, I couldn't fully get to that root cause and fix it.
Understood. And so the SSRIs, they were helpful for the time, but it wasn't helping the root cause.
Not at all. No, it was masking. It was masking the amplification of feeling like I was going to have a panic attack, but it was bringing down my ability to what I call be myself. And sometimes those SSRIs can be helpful in very problematic states, but they're not the strategy that is most effective to operate at the level that most people really are trying to get to, in my opinion.
Yeah, I was on SSRIs for probably like a year and a half, and I think they actually made my situation worse. And I didn't like it. I feel like they amplified a lot of effects. Like, yeah, they made me feel better day to day, but some of the like really like swings, the suicidal thoughts, those were like amplified drastically, which I think, yeah, I don't think I have a different perspective toward it, which we don't need to go down for this. But yeah, SSRIs, they're like you said, they're not treating the root cause.
Yeah, and they're hard to get off of. And so people don't, they're changing the way in which brain chemistry is functioning. And so with that rewiring through those medications, if you want to come off of them, they're tough, to deal with when you come off. And they need support. And it sounds like, your span and my two times doing it for about a year each time. Coming off of that was one of the hardest things, to do. But when you're off, you're kind of back to where you were. So you have to fix the actual root cause problems anyway. So you can pick to have, like you said, an amplified version of the problems you were hoping to fix, but masking this side of it. When in reality, a lot of the times, if applied correctly with the right strategies, you can figure out your physiological insufficiencies and correct them so that it makes the psychological work that we all have to do in our mental space that much easier to do and accomplish.
Yeah, totally. So now you've gone through this whole like health optimization, you've gotten off SSRIs, you've healed your body, you've lost a lot of fat, gotten to, back to what you would consider and many would consider athlete level shape. What's a belief about health optimization that you held 5 years ago that now you think is completely wrong?
Yeah, that snapshot and time data was sufficient. And I think that's what's propagated a lot even currently today, which is, hey, I do blood work with a small amount of information details, and that's enough. Hey, I might do them every month. I might do them every quarter, but that's enough. The truth is, it's only part of the picture. And so unless you have true epigenetic level data and you understand trends and multi-level components of that data, it's just still a kind of a throw it at the wall dart kind of methodology or strategy. When in reality, you need multiple data sets because we are all unique and individual. And when you can get them, it makes strategy and precision that much easier to accomplish.
So how is that different? Like, I guess, like, how is what Elevation is doing different than just that snapshot in the dark, essentially, that you're getting?
Yeah. So when you do blood work, basically that's a clinical assessment. It's a standard of care that if you're doing good clinical medicine, you should be doing. So I commend anyone that actually does blood work before they even give people tools, because that's like the baseline of what you should be doing. Is you should understand the key areas of clinical medicine through blood work to appropriately do interventions. But from there, it's just insufficient data. And so what we do is we layer in multi-levels of snapshotting of someone's individual health kind of data sets. We call them omics. So there are different omic levels in this workup that allow us to see somebody in a true epigenetic profile. And epigenetics is the way that our genetics express themselves. And when you can see that expression state, not just in blood work in one snapshot in time, you can see them over trend periods of months and years rather than just like Tuesday on September 25th, type of thing. And when you have all those pieces of data as a collective, you get a three-dimensional model of an individual rather than looking at a wall piece of art. You get a three-dimensional piece of rendering, which is a full perspective change on the person.
So instead of just having one analysis, one lab work done when John Doe is tired or has some other thing in his system that could possibly be altering the data, it's a multi-step snapshot in different stages. What are those stages? Like, how frequent do those tests get done? And like, how do you determine something that's epigenetics?
Yeah. So, typically for us, what we want to see as a appropriate level of biological change is about 90 days. Almost 80% of our biology changes in under 90 days. So for us as a standard temperature of going, okay, every 90 days, we want to have another snapshot. But where most people take minor snapshots or a major snapshot at the beginning and then minor snapshots later, we don't sacrifice on value, where most people are just a price-based game. So the value for us is we want to see the full spectrum in every snapshot over and over and over and over again, because you can't measure something if you can't see it. I think that's pretty logical sense, and most people miss that all the time. Is they go, well, I saw this here 364 days ago and I was cool, and now I don't need to look at it again. That makes zero logical sense. And so for us, we take that approach of every 90 days with a full spectrum analysis in that avenue that we can see. Epigenetics, we do every 4 months, because what we want to see is some level of regularity of that to match the level of that biological change that we're getting in that snapshot. However, we're seeing compounding interest. The way that I always describe this is it's like a financial market. Blood work, the serum blood work that we typically do in a clinical model is kind of like day trading if we're comparing it to a financial kind of industry. It's like the day trading. We want to know those commodities. How's gold looking today versus silver? Those commodity trades. But when we're looking at epigenetics, it's like looking at the full S&P. It's looking at all these companies over a trend line of what was happening with S&P over last year, what happened over the last 3 years, what happened over the last 5 years, the last 10 years. And when you can see those trend lines, you start extrapolating data that you just cannot get through a day trading type of methodology. You have to see the big picture and the little picture. And most people, especially if they're business owners, really get that. You got to see the forest from the trees and the trees from the forest. So that's what our epigenetic level testing can do. But it goes far beyond that, even where, in basic anatomy, like anyone, any doctor that's gone through an anatomy and they go through, their physiological training in kind of biochemistry and biology, they know that every particular organ system starts at the cellular level. So you have like if we're talking about the heart, you've got cell, you've got tissue, you've got cardiovascular formation of that tissue to then create the heart itself. And then you got a system structure with that heart, which is the cardiovascular system. So you have this hierarchy growth level of looking at, a part of the body, but we only measure cardiovascular system in clinical medicine and a lot of our competition from blood work alone. So you just see the blood work and then you go, hey, the lipid panel looks like this. That's enough. The truth is, it's only one part of the picture, because what about the cellular function? That you're not measuring cellular function from there. And so we do levels of, that's why these levels matter. We do these levels because we want to see how the cells are functioning all the way up to the actual organ itself, and then through into the system and the interconnectivity of the system to other systems.
There's a lot of these tests out there. I think these things are blowing up right now. Everybody's getting testing from 10x to function to just going to your normal doctor. And these are like those snapshots, those blood tests for you. You guys have a $14,000 health optimization package. Like, what exactly do they get with that versus just doing one of those tests that anybody can find on the internet?
Yeah. So it goes back to the breadth of the panel that we do versus a lot of these companies. A lot of these companies, they'll say it's 100 biomarkers, and a lot of the times it is that case. What we do is 120 plus biomarkers in our blood work, just from a standard point. A lot of those places will say, hey, do one big test and then do smaller tests whenever you feel like it. Where we're taking the approach that you get with us is you get this broad panel, you're getting it every 3 months, standard. But then what you're getting with that is an executive concierge medical team that's going to engage with you in a comprehensive workup on that actual panel itself. So you're going to engage with somebody in detail that's going to not only know and interpret what you're seeing and help you understand that, but they're also going to build a protocol that's going to adapt with it. So it's constantly living and evolving. Whereas a lot of our competition, they're just going to send you a PDF and then you can just choose what the heck to do with something. We have a clinical team that's going to work with you. Then we have a frequency of other levels of testing and engagements. We have PhDs on our staff that are going to engage with you as a patient. You're going to have a PhD in genomics and a PhD in epigenetics, specifically going to engage with you on that readout of what you've been tested on at that time. We're going to have a microbiology expert that's going to help you understand and digest with this frequency level of every 4 months, what's going on in your microbiome. So not only do you get this a high cadence, a standard cadence of testing and advanced testing over and over again, but you're also getting a high level of engagement with clinical people that are high level. You're not just dealing with ChatGPT, which is going to hallucinate and not know what the hell how to bring all these things together. You're going to have people that are communicating and working on this for you. And that's what an executive workup really should be.
Yeah. So then what is the difference between a genomist and an epigeneticist? Is that did I say those words right?
Yeah. Yep.
What's the difference between those?
Yeah. So like genomics is going to be, how is your genomic structure? When we pull all of your genes, how is your genomic structure unique to you? And that's really important to know as you digest that information, because you then know the operating manual of your unique system. You use an example. It's like you wouldn't put diesel fuel in a petrol fuel or gasoline in a diesel truck or vice versa. And so understanding that, you need somebody that can interpret your full genome and not some gimmicky 5-gene methylation test or some gimmicky 54-gene test or some gimmicky 134-gene. We're talking about every single gene that exists in you and trillions of level of interactive data on that. That needs to come from somebody that can help you understand that. And that's why we have a PhD on staff.
Okay. So that's the whole genome sequencing that you guys do. How is that different than like a traditional genetic test or like a 23andMe?
Yeah, so like 23andMe and some of these other gene companies, usually they're pulling off a sequence of SNPs, SNPs, and when you pull off only like 600,000 of these, you're only getting a piece of the structure. What you really need is to have all of your genes so that you can run them against each other in hierarchy fashion when it comes to protocol build out and things like that. Because if you have a predisposition over here, but you're not seeing the full picture, that 3D model, if you will, then you're missing a full perspective on another component of your physiology that you should have access to and a viewpoint on. So when you do whole genome sequencing, you're getting all of that data rather than picking and choosing just some of the functional pieces that a lot of these companies do.
So you guys are doing the gene testing, the whole genome sequencing, and then you guys have the epigeneticist who what are they looking at? What are those tests with them?
Yeah, so with genetics, like I said, they don't change. We're not there yet. CRISPR technology is going to revolutionize medicine where we get to the point where we can actually change the genetic structure of individuals. But that's not fully deployed yet, but that is the future of medicine. So with that, if we can't change genes, what happens is there's an expressive state. So it's not just a life sentence. If I know that I'm in that really terrible 2% where the cards are stacked against me, knowing all that information means that I know what decisions I have to make so that I don't fall into that 2% over and over and over and over again, like many people do. So what epigenetics is helping you do, and what our epigenetics is helping people understand, is the expressive state currently of that gene environment. So not only do you learn like what should I be doing, you'll actually know what's happening now. And so how does that applicable? Well, if I know that my age rate of my heart is 5 years younger than me being actually this age, then that shows me that my decisions against my genetics are actually good. Are there other things that I can do to improve that rate in which my heart is aging? I want to know those things. Having someone that can actually help you with that information is more valuable than people understand. That's why you're paying $14,000 and not just looking it up on ChatGPT, because ChatGPT cannot help you understand that. You need somebody that can interpret that data and help you understand why and then what to do. So reverse that. Let's say that you've got an organ system that's aging faster. If that's something that's happening, we want to understand why that's happening and extrapolate that data so we know how to improve that position to either stop it, reverse it completely, but sometimes we can't. So sometimes, like kidneys, for example, are really tough organs to fully, reverse. But if you catch it and you know that it's aging faster than it should, and you know why, then you can actually slow down the rate of damage that's happening over time. But most people like to fly in the dark. And if you're just doing basic blood work, you're flying in the dark.
Understood. So then I guess like why would somebody trust Elevation over some of these more established competitors like 10X or Superhuman, Function Health?
Really, really good question. I think what I wanted to do is not take venture backed money because I wanted to have a clinical structure that really made sense first and not be a marketing company that is just filling the gaps with clinical work. So a lot of these companies are just really great marketers and venture capital money to rush and flood the system. What we are doing, we actually revolutionizing clinical medicine and preventative care, from my opinion. And we wanted to create that first and build the momentum the right way. I didn't want venture capitalists. I self-funded this for a reason. I did not want venture capitalists pushing me to change the way in which we were going to do medicine because it was going to make money faster for them just alone. Yes, I want to make money. I want to change the world. I want to do all these things, but we wanted to do it the right way.
Yeah, yeah. So, what was the exact moment for you when you realized Elevation wasn't just an idea, but like a true game changer for the industry?
Yeah, it's seeing hundreds of different patients, some of them spending thousands and thousands of dollars, some hundreds of thousands of dollars previously doing all these, weird biohacking gadgets and things like that, come to us and within 90 days to sometimes 6 months, literally change their full dynamic and their whole situational problem that we could identify. Many people dealing with gut issues for long periods of time. Some people just dealing with energy issues and nothing really worked. Some people that got on testosterone replacement therapy and for years were doing it the wrong way and completely destroyed parts of their endocrine system that had to, unravel. So I knew it was a game changer when we were basically pulling in all the people from the other places and fixing their problems. And when we could fix their problems, I knew we were onto something, because we rapidly grew for the first 2 years just through word of mouth.
So then you said like people with gut health issues. I know, I mean, that's something that I've struggled with. I think a lot of people struggle with. How specifically, like, what does that look like from, the protocols you guys implement? And then what, how can you articulate that? Somebody comes in with gut issues. Where do they start? And then what does their genome sequence and the epigeneticist, like, how do they intertwine into creating solutions around those gut issues or other issues that people might experience?
Yeah, really good question. So the gut, just like every other organ system, and environment in the body, has both a cellular level, but also a genetic level of information. So not only do we understand kind of the genetic infrastructure of your gut environment, we also know the real-time problems with your gut environment in like through the testing that we're doing. So we know the things that your body craves and wants, and the things that are problematic currently in real time. And when we can get
So mine craves spicy food and bread, sugars, sweets, like those types of things.
yeah, that's what your mind is craving. Yeah, but
Okay, okay, okay.
what your gut actually wants and craves in just that is what we want to see. And so when we can see all that level of data, we can not only help improve, hey, from a dietary standpoint, the things you're putting in your mouth from food sources need to look like this, but also the specific level of bacteria, or excuse me, types of things that we want from a prebiotic and a probiotic standpoint because of the bacterial elements that are going on. And we can see if there's parasitic or viral elements as well. So when I talk about parasites, I mean true clinical level, diagnostic level parasitic things. And some people have them. Not a ton of people, but some people do. But the major issues are usually some form of bacterial dysfunction because of diet and because of taking unnecessary or too many different random supplements.
So yeah, I've heard like upwards of 80% of Americans have some level of like parasite infection. You're saying that is that not true, or is that not that high?
I don't believe it's that high. If everyone, if we're all dealing with parasitic, things, the disease states that would be expressing themselves would be completely different, in my opinion. But there are some people that have true parasitic issues. The truth is we have bacterial elements in our system that are not like a native thing for us, but they're a codependent situation that we want. And so when we create that like good bacteria, like people use that word a lot. If we have good bacteria, it's not something that is technically, good in other places of our body, but in that environment, it's really good because it's creating a homeostatic and like a very balanced environment that's helping us. And so everything is a balance. You don't want too much or too little of certain things. And the only way that you know if you have too much or too little is if you're actually looking into that environment.
Right. So somebody comes in, they have gut issues, they get what, blood work done, they get a gene test done. What other tests are done from the start?
Yeah, full stool test. So we're doing a full genetic stool workup along with real-time analysis of that stool as well. So that deep level diagnostic care is going to help us uncover all those issues. And then when we can see how that's showing up in your blood work, we can see, a lot of those problems. But what's really interesting, like our conversation before, is if we see a really dysfunctional gut system and we know genetically there's some predispositions for certain pathways, like a rail system, if you will, of how your dopamine production happens, how your serotonin production happens. There's like a full railway system of that. If there's a problematic genetic problem for you there, the gut and the brain are very interconnected. So if we can rectify the gut, a lot of those mental health issues can be supported and physiologically improved so that those feelings of anxiety or feelings of depression can be mitigated quite a bit. That doesn't mean that we completely change the way that you perceive the world, but physiologically, yes, we can improve that position.
What are the most like common I guess symptoms people experience that it's really just a gut issue, from you said anxiety, depression. There's this whole railway of things that happen. What are the most common things that most people aren't even realizing are gut issues?
What can be fatigue, bloating, brain fog, clear vision, even sometimes for some people, if they get foggy vision, even things like that. You could have rapid filling kind of anxiety coming from some of that, but it can be multiple different things. But a lot of times the biggest ones are some form of energy depletion and some form of brain fog.
So energy levels, brain fog, those are the big ones. And then you guys do all these tests, you analyze. What are the leading indicators that you guys are discovering? You said parasites are sometimes those. What are some of the other indicators that are very common that people aren't aware of are affecting their gut?
Yeah, it's some form of bacterial dysfunction. So if you've got a metabolic issue, the way that your body absorbs nutrients, you can have dysbiosis completely. There's multiple different things that could be problematic, and that scale of how problematic is really important. So there's certain categories. We look at about 6 different categories within that environment, and then in those categories, like how problematic are they? And when we can see that, then we get into the micro layer of details and start improving that particular environment through a 90-day plan of dietary change. A lot of times it's supplemental change, and there's things in more advanced therapies like peptide therapy and things like that that can play a role in improving not only supportive structures of the gut, but the gut itself.
Why do you think the average person has no idea this level of health optimization even exists?
I think because there's really good marketing out there. A lot of the conversation is on all the tools. So if you go online these days, you're going to get, marketed some supplement or some peptide by some person telling you it's going to do something. And the truth is, everybody's talking about how things operate in like a petri dish, I call it, like in a siloed vacuum. And the truth is, those tools can be awesome, but they don't know how and why they should even be applied. And so most people think that blood work's sufficient to apply those specifically and precisely. But there's a difference between shooting, with a shotgun and shooting with a sniper rifle. And if you want precision, then you want to shoot with a sniper rifle. So that's the type of tool that you want to apply. The same thing happens if you can see a full lay of the land of the full forest from the top end and see inside on the level of trees as well. You can't do that if you're just guessing. So if you're not testing and you're not testing correctly and you're not analyzing correctly, you're just basically guessing.
Yeah. What's stopping most high earners from investing in something like this?
Usually it's ego, thinking that they can figure it out on themselves, or something that they say, hey, I can just do this basic level thing and that's sufficient. I just need, this type of thing. The truth is, they treat their business, they treat their cars, they treat their clothes better than they treat themselves. And the only thing getting in stopping them from treating their body how they should is their own ego.
Yeah, it's crazy. That's I've been blessed with good health, and it's always something I've prioritized. I didn't come for money, but I always told myself I'm not going to compromise my health in the path to get money. And it's crazy how many entrepreneurs they just don't care. You see them put on all this weight, walking around with man tits and a beer belly, and they make millions of dollars, but they look like shit. And it just blows my mind, because I would never trade that. I would never trade my health for money ever. Never have compromised on that, but so many entrepreneurs do.
Yeah, and one of the things that I always have a hard time grasping around is these guys really care about a precision business or a really good looking business. They care about that fancy car and the country club. They want to be perceived with high quality, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with wanting those things. But how do you want all those things around you and not want that for the most important asset that you have and you possess? It blows my mind every single time I think about it, because it should be the reverse. It should be the asset first, which leads into everything else that you do.
Yeah, 100%. So what's one part of your guys' process that always just blows clients' minds away?
I think it's the interconnectivity of it all. So the epigenetic structure, like if you're doing an epigenetic reset, there's this level of understanding that you get about yourself that is just really tough to do on your own. Not to say that some people can't figure out and like we have some magic thing, but it's hard to do on your own. It is really hard to do. And then to interpret it correctly is even harder to do it. So I think when we talk about epigenetics and looking at those waves and trend lines and how that actually applies back to you, not just seeing something, but how that applies back and why that's happening is stuff that blows people's minds. The other thing that we have that is not in most of these places and some of the names that you've brought up is we can actually see dysfunction in the cell that most places would dream of. We can see where the complex breakdown is. And when we can see that, we know exactly what we need to do to apply cellular change. So when you hear words like I go crazy right now, a lot of people talking about mitochondrial health or redox. And for us, we actually know the testing that's telling us what the things are we're going to apply, rather than these people just say, let's do a mitochondrial reset or let's do a redox reset. They're just throwing stuff against the wall because they truly don't know if the individual needs it or not, where we do.
So, I mean, this is like super technical stuff. Like, how did somebody like you crack the code on essentially delivering measurable cellular level results? You know, you're not like a genomicist or epigenetics. So, how did you crack the code on this, and how did Elevation really dial this in?
Because we care about good clinical work. Again, we didn't just want to be a marketing company. I think that that's where a lot of people have gotten lost in this. Is there's a lot of really good marketers out there and leaders in the space from an authority standpoint that are just extremely good marketers. Where we wanted to actually have an environment where we actually invested in the things that mattered. Do we have the very best in every segment? I think that there are some incredibly talented clinical individuals across the world that are doing parts of the segments that we are doing. The thing, though, that we keep leaning into is that we are doing it in a way that's comprehensive, but also accessible and fast and deliverable to patients in a very, very concierge and luxury manner, meaning they don't have to come in or fly to LA just to meet with our team or fly to London just to meet with our team. All of this is done in a convenient way as well, which I think has a high value for a lot of people because they want not only clinical accuracy, but they want convenience and the ability to live their life and not have to invest, 40 hours a week just to do this type of work.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not trying to invest 1 hour into my week to like get this stuff done. So with this, you're saying what does that mean? You guys have the like you've made it easy for people that value your time. How does that work? Do you guys send phlebotomists or you guys send labs to the person and then everything's done virtually?
Yeah, so we make it as convenient as possible. So the mandatories, we try to create an environment that's really easy for you. So at-home phlebotomy is always an option. At-home testing is always an option. We do have out-of-home testing as well. There's only way to do it, honestly, like VO2 testing, DEXA testing, or DEXA scans are done outside of your home. So those type of testing, there's always going to be something that you can do in addition to, but our core testing that's a part of our program is inside the home, accessible for our patients. All of the engagements are all remote as well. So you don't have to go anywhere to have the actual engagement with your clinicians. We're coming to you all remote. And we're making everything from your protocol easy and accessible for you as well. You don't have to go pick it up at a pharmacy. It's going to be shipped to your home. All of your protocol supplements, your peptides, your hormone therapy, all of your medications will be shipped to you.
Okay. So someone like myself, I'm a 7-figure entrepreneur. You are as well. we value our time. What's a real time investment to a program like this?
Yeah, so that's the non-negotiables first. So what we are not doing is giving you a magic pill where you don't have to do anything. That doesn't exist. Anyone that's telling you that is completely full of bullshit and is feeding you something that doesn't exist. So what do you have to do? The things that Elevetion is helping support is your sleep, your nutrition, and your exercise. So those are non-negotiables. So what do you have to invest in? Improving your sleep. What do we want for you? Good quality and quantity of sleep. So 8 hours a night, that's an investment, right? Is you're going to have to reduce those late hours. We want you to get good quality sleep. So there's an investment there, is getting good quality and quantity of sleep. Nutrition, you have to actually pay attention to what you're doing. But the good thing for you is if you're a high earner, you're actually eating. You have to eat. So there's not a single person on earth that is not eating. So we're translating that time investment that you're already doing into more intentional time work. Now, the thing for some people that is a struggle is the exercise part. So you do have to commit to at least 4 hours a week. You have to. If you're going to commit to 4 hours a week, we can help you and support that investment in creating a body that's recomped to the way that you want it to be, both from an aesthetic position, but also from a clinical position of getting better and putting years on your life. So those are the investments outright, those 4 hours, the sleep hours, things like that. But you're probably also going to increase time in doing the protocol that we're shipping to you. So there's probably an investment of 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes at night. That's it.
Every day?
Every day.
And what is the 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the night? What does that consist of?
You grabbing your particular protocol, which may be a combination of some injections, as well as some things, supplements that you're going to put into your mouth, drinking it, and that's it.
Oh, okay. I mean, that's like less than 5 minutes, right? I do peptides. It's literally a 1 minute process, but I'm a hyper efficient individual. And then my supplements is probably another 1 minute. Like I do it, it's 120 seconds a day. But yeah, that's a very safe rounded estimate of 20 minutes twice a day. So, and then to get started though, you said they're going to have to put in the time to send a phlebotomist out to get the labs done. And then what, do they hop on a call with somebody like yourself, or who do they hop on a call with to analyze all the results when they're back?
Yeah, so you're gonna engage with whoever is a part of that particular segment. So when you do your blood work, we're gonna always have a provider that's engaging with you right after. So you're gonna go have your blood drawn, and then within a certain time frame, usually it's about a 10-day period of digesting all that information because it is such an extensive panel. And then we're setting up a review with you within right after those 10 days. After you get your scheduled meeting, it's going to be about an hour and a half conversation with that provider. Depending on those other particular segments, we will schedule with those specialists as well.
Yeah. Okay. And then that's it? Or are there any other tests that need to be done? Any other reviews that need to be done other than those?
Just our standard reviews. So you're going to have a cellular test engagement. You're going to have a microbiome type of engagement. You're going to have a epigenetic engagement, and then you're going to have a provider engagement for 2 different segments. So all those engagements are done at the very beginning. And then we have multi-layered over every quarter. So you'll have a re-engagement with our epigeneticist. You're going to have a re-engagement with our geneticist. You're going to have a re-engagement with our microbiome specialist. You're going to have a re-engagement a couple times with our providers. And that repeats every quarter.
Okay. So about an hour and a half with a provider or multiple providers every quarter is roughly the time investment that it's going to take to analyze all the results and labs that they've gotten?
Yeah, so what we want to do is create an environment that's conducive to the individual too. So every engagement is around 45 minutes to an hour and a half if you want it. So If you don't want that and you're, hey, my time's really important, give me all the sweet summaries, we can actually summarize that faster and efficiently for you. But we want to make sure that environment of questions and deep dives are available to our patients too. So we do have a good mix of people that are like, hey, I just want to get to it fast, and we get to those. We are still taking probably 30 minutes plus in getting the information across to the patient, but we're respectful of time commitments as well. So each engagement is going to be about 40 minutes upwards to about an hour and a half with one of our providers and one of our specialists.
Yeah, understood. And then from there, you guys will determine the supplement stack, the protocols, including peptides, and then what best diet plans there are. Do you guys do the diet plan for them, or what involvement are you guys with that diet?
Yep. And then we build out a clinical dietary improvement plan. So based off of all of what we're seeing, be it genetically, be it from your blood labs, and we adapt that. So every 90 days, that protocol is changing. We do have fitness and nutrition coaching in-house. That is something that we will be expanding out. But we also have fitness and nutrition partners that are part of our ecosystem that have their own fitness and nutrition training. So we have a lot of different supportive structures for our patients if they need more things. So fitness and nutrition is something that you need help with. We give a good framework for those patients. We have a fitness app. We have dietary clinical things that we're providing those patients over and over and over again. But if you're looking for performance gains and somebody that's going to be in your corner week in, week out, to help you with shopping lists for that week, to help you with meal plans with that week type of thing, we do have our own in-house coaching, and we do have an ecosystem of partner strength and nutrition type of coaches as well.
Okay, so understood. So if somebody's listening, they want to get started, they wire you the money, 14 grand to get started. We immediately send a test out to them. They get tested. They get those results and analysis back generally within about 2 weeks. And that's going to be analyzed by a panel of doctors, not just one doctor. They have the option to hop on with those doctors or not, depending on what their schedule's like. And then you guys are going to come up with a customized game plan for them, which includes diet, nutrition, workouts, everything. And you guys handhold them the entire way. Do you guys provide any accountability?
That would be if you're doing fitness and nutrition coaching. So that's where you'd have accountability coaching for your fitness and nutrition. So that would be in addition to, but we make that accessible for our patients. That would be in addition to the $15,000 for the program.
Love it. I mean, you see a lot of people. You've been in this space now. You've had quite the transformation. Like, what do you think is the biggest myth that what do you think is the biggest myth in biohacking that's holding people back?
The biggest myth that's holding people back, is you find a problem one time and you just take one thing and it's done for the rest of your life. The truth is biology changes literally every 90 days. So the biggest myth is that you take a magic pill and you fix all your problems. The truth is there's always going to be problems. The solution to that is staying 10 steps and 100 steps ahead of those problems before they become major issues down the road.
Right. And then from you guys have helped, hundreds of people now, and I know across your staff, even thousands when you add up all the patients that they've seen. What's the biggest thing that what's the first thing that somebody notices when they start implementing Elevation's protocols?
Depends on the patient. I hate saying that, but anytime I get random questions, usually the answer is it depends. But many of the top responses is sleep improvement, energy improvement, and just overall, hey, I can get about my day faster. Those are kind of the first things that most people talk about is like this deeper sleep and recovery, higher energy, and just an overall ability to get through the day better.
Yeah. How do you measure success for people that are already high performers?
Data. I mean, how would high performer measure their own success, right? So a lot of the times if they would measure their success as like an entrepreneur through revenue, like are they making money in their business? And so that's a top line thing, but there's a lot of indicators that lead to that, and they analyze that with a fine tooth comb if they're really good as an entrepreneur every quarter. So what we do is the same thing, is we're helping them have a top line of improvement, but we have data to back it up. So that measurement of improvement, not only can we say, hey, you subjectively feel better, or you're telling us you're feeling better in these ways. Sometimes that's like an extreme, I'm feeling better, and sometimes I'm like, hey, I'm feeling better. But if you have the data to back up that they are 10 times better statistically, or 100 times better in certain places statistically, that's how you measure success.
And then on the clients you guys have, like, what's the success rate of people that sign up for this program?
Yeah, clinical success rate right now, because success is subjective. So the clinical success of uncovering problems and helping improve those positions is 100%. 100%. Now, are we making claims that we can cure diseases, or, change someone's, into a different person completely? Not, like, we cannot make those claims, but can we uncover problems, and can we better them from the moment they're with us to after? Yes. And subjectively, the answer for each of those patients is across the board. We have really good clinical results, but how people interpret that, some people are like, I wish, I would have found this 10 years ago. I would have paid you $2 million for it. We have other patients that are like, this was well worth my money, and I'm so glad I did it. And we have some, in full transparency, we have people that do a couple years with us and then are like, hey, you helped me figure this out, and I'm taking a little bit of a break. And I'll come back to you guys when I need it. And we don't want that to happen. We want people to stay with us, but I'm being open and transparent that we don't have people that just come and then leave because they have a bad clinical experience. We have people that come to us and have their lives changed.
Yeah. What's your guys' refund rate?
We don't have refunds if you're investing with us. The reason being is because we are going to do what we tell you we are going to do. We are going to analyze you. We're going to uncover problems that exist, and we're going to give you a protocol that will improve that problem. So we can't guarantee that someone's going to have a better position if they don't do the things that we tell them to do. And so because of that, we can't put a guarantee in there that will refund you your money. If people are buying peptides from random gray market sites, if people are going to, not do the things that we tell them to do, we can't do that.
But of all the people that have signed up for your protocols, done what you said, you guys haven't refunded anybody?
We've refunded one person, and that was solely because they wanted to do their own thing.
Okay, but yeah, so they didn't do what you guys said. So it that makes sense. So if you pay for the program, do what they say, you guys are going to be happy with the results, and see improvements. Why do you think that most health optimization programs are scams, and how is Elevetion exposing those?
Scam's a big word. I feel like the better word for us would be that they're incomplete. I feel like most programs are very kindergarten versions of what people should be, investing for themselves. So what do I mean by that? We're getting inundated with an idea that you can look at like 16 biomarkers and have an effective level of information, even if it's every month. Doesn't exist. There are people that are telling you that, hey, you do 100 biomarkers one time and you'll have enough. Well, we already did that. We did that with insurance-based healthcare system, which is a complete failure, and there was a reaction to that. And now we have Insurance 2.0 in all of these other companies doing 100 biomarkers once a year, and then you do follow-ups with smaller panels. Like, we've already done that. We've already created that system, and it didn't work. And so what we know is if you want an assurance-based healthcare system with assurance that you're doing the right things, you can't know if you're doing the right things unless you're measuring it. And so you can't measure something if you're not looking at it. So what we say is if you value that assurance, then you're going to look at the things that we're talking about and we're telling you in our program.
Okay. So then why not just get labs and the biomarkers and just run it through AI or ChatGPT?
Yeah, good question. ChatGPT has no emotional intelligence and has no ability to combine all those things together rationally. It's going to hallucinate every single time. We already know that LLMs hallucinate in segments of this section. It's documented in in AI science within clinical medicine, in multiple categories, including radiology. So you can't. We still are not at a place where we can pull out the physician and bring all these things together. And so, could you put in your blood-based results and have ChatGPT tell you what's going on with those blood-based results? Yes, but they also can't. ChatGPT cannot prescribe for you legally. It cannot interpret a multi-omic type of environment for you or bring in multiple avenues in context together.
Understood. And by hallucinate, what specifically do you mean by that? Just to be clear.
Yeah, it's going to pull things from avenues of the web that it thinks is correct and spit it back to you as fact. One of those things is we already know that it pulls from articles that don't even exist. It will cite studies that don't even exist, and that's a hallucination.
Understood. Yeah. Yeah, I hate when it does that. Like, I don't use it for my health, but I'll have it read stuff. I'm like, what? Why are you doing this? This is not even real. You made this up. And then it's like, oh, you're right. Yeah. Okay. So, don't run your labs through AI because it's just going to give you false data, and that could possibly cause more harm. What would you say is the biggest lie that executives and business owners tell themselves about their health, and how is it costing them millions?
That they're fine. I think that's the biggest lie, is when they say, oh, I'm fine. The truth is we all are fine until we're not. And the only way to know if you're not fine is if you're actually analyzing what's going on underneath the hood. Most people don't know they have a cardiac problem until they have a cardiac event, meaning a heart attack. So you could be 10 years before that heart attack comes and have preventable things that you can do. Or you could just say, I'm fine, and wait the 10 years and then have a heart attack and go, I wish I would have done something about it.
Wow. Yeah. What's one biohack that's complete bullshit, but everybody swears by?
One biohack, I could do probably 10. But I think the funniest one that I've seen is probably when people put their butts up into the air and sun their butts right now. That one always makes me giggle. Another one would be, pouring urine over their face. That makes me giggle too.
Yeah. That's funny. I know the things people do from the internet. What would you say is the most shocking thing that you've discovered in someone's genome that's completely changed their life?
Shocking. Well, there's tons of there are many different things that can be shocking when you find it. One of the biggest ones, it's got a little bit of popularity recently, with I forget. I think it's Limitless is the show on National Geographic with Chris Hemsworth. But there's a specific genome that if you carry it, you have a high predisposition for Alzheimer's disease, which is the ApoE4 genome. And so if you have certain types of that mutation and you carry the ApoE4, you have a very high predisposition to have Alzheimer's later in your life. However, there's so many things that you can do to prevent that and be a participant in it. And that's the part with epigenetics that we're so passionate about, that it doesn't have to be a full death sentence, but even if your risks are real high. So everybody's got that uncle that's like smoked till they're 90. And then you say, well, cigarettes aren't bad. My Uncle Joey, smoked till he was 120. Or, my Aunt Sally had 3 drinks a day, right? We're all different. And so I think one of those major ones is that ApoE4 and catching that really early and helping arm a particular patient with the ability to prepare well before it becomes a problem.
What are the other genomes? I think there's one called like the mother effer or something like that. Did I say that right?
Yeah, MTHFR. So the methylation cycle is a really popular conversation in the genetic kind of social media space. Got really popularized with the 5-gene kind of methylation conversation. But the truth is there's many genes that are a part of that methylation cycle. And understanding how the methylation cycle and the like detox pathway cycles all are really important. But there are other parts and systems that are coexisting with that can play against it or for it as well, even in your own methylation cycle. So just because you have the mother effer gene, if you will, doesn't mean that you're actually, sentenced to death and always needing something to put into your body. It's an awareness that you have some form of mutation that you have to monitor and make sure if it's expressing itself or not in your day-to-day and your analytics as well.
Yeah. And how does that or how do some of these gene mutations express or manifest in day-to-day life?
Yeah. So real interesting one is you'll have people that find out that they have some form of methylation kind of problem. They'll overconsume methylated B vitamins, have super anxiety ridden type of events in their body and their physiology, and go, holy cow, like, why is this happening? Why am I feeling this anxiety in my daily life when I know I've got this gene mutation that they told me is like broken and I have to take this thing? And that's problematic, is just because something is dysfunctional in your gene pathway does not mean that it's fully expressive in the day-to-day. So you have to monitor that. And sometimes people overconsume things because they're frightened because of their gene structure, when in reality, it's something that you have to just be aware of and know if you have too much or too little of something.
I think we had some pretty good questions there.
You did good, man.